Hey guys, it's Alex with Quietly Armed, Nick's friend here on the channel. Today we have two Prodigies in front of us that we recently got, but before we go into them, I wanted to talk about how the Prodigy came about. Well, I'm going to take us back down to 2021, 2022. We were just outside of COVID a little bit, and we were really looking for the next big thing in our life. And Springfield said, we have an idea and we're going to run with it. And that idea was getting a 2011 out to the market. But they had some criteria that they had to hit. One of them, they needed to be affordable, they had to be reliable, and it had to be double stack. Their goal by making the Prodigy was to shake up the 1911 and 2011 market and offer a pistol that would be reliable and affordable as a range toy or a self-defense firearm. Some of the features to look here at the Prodigy: all models come optic ready from the get-go. Some do come pre-installed with a Hex Dragonfly that's paired with the Agency Optic System Plate, or AOS for short. The Prodigy's geometry includes a widened frame here to accept those double stack mags and deep serrations here on the front and back of the slide. They also come with a really nice accessory rail and a bushingless bull barrel. The Prodigy also comes with a really nice, respectable 3.5 pound trigger. I think one of the nice things that Springfield has really figured out is that they're adding a lot of the rails as other companies are, to where if you wanted to run a light or whatever it might be up front, you're able to do that without an issue. After taking a look on the features of the Prodigy, the question in 2025 still arises: are they affordable and are they still reliable? The short answer is yes, but the detailed answer might surprise you because it's a little yes and a little no. We're going to start with the positives about the Prodigy. Before we do that, I just want to get in and kind of give a little groundwork to where we're coming from and how we came to our conclusions on these reviews. Remember, we're shooting a comp variant of the Springfield Prodigy, and then we also have the non-comp version. So some of these reviews are a little more skewed towards the comp versus the non-comp. Again, it's a little more groundwork here. Is the non-comp had no issues as we've shot it pretty much since a couple weeks ago. The comp version has been the problematic gun thus far. So again, take these with a grain of salt. They're just from what I've personally experienced so far. One of the big questions we get is, does the Prodigy allow somebody to get into the 2011 market without spending staccato money? And the answer is yes, absolutely. One of the other questions we see commonly is, comparatively to all the pistols or any 2011s or anything on the market, how does it shoot? And I personally think that the Prodigy out of the box is one of the nicest guns out there, especially at that price point. It really just works, especially when it wants to, and when I don't experience hangups. It's a really fun gun to shoot. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. One of the other major points I really like about the Prodigy is the grip on the gun. It's not too aggressive, and it's very comparable to 220 grit, very fine sandpaper. I really think Springfield did a very nice job. Fits the hand very well. It's very comfortable. Doesn't beat you up too much. One of the other major pluses on the Prod here is it has an ambi safety. Another gun like the Wilson Combat EDC in a totally different tax bracket does not come with an ambi safety, and it looks very empty and odd to me. And obviously here for lefty shooters, or if you're doing drills where it's one-handed, having an ambi safety is a major plus. Everything overall on the Prodigy feels very refined and very nice. The controls are very smooth. The trigger is nothing to write home about, but it's pretty good for out of the box, which I'm very happy with. I think little complaints that are going to come from the visual and touch test on the Prodigy. Now we're going to get into my gripes about the Prodigy. One of the major pain points for me about the Prodigy has always been the recessed slide release. Even before we got these two Prodigies that you see here, I'd gone to the gun store a couple months earlier, and I wanted to see if they had really changed anything about the overall design of the Prodigy. To my surprise, but not really, they hadn't. Still the same old recessed slide release, and that was a little bit of a bummer. I'm very surprised that Springfield to this day hasn't either opted to partner with EGW and say, hey, you give us extended slide releases, we'll give you the option on the dealer side to order them that way, or charging me an extra couple dollars for an extended slide release. I wouldn't really have an issue with that if they allowed us to do that. I know what some of you guys are saying, are like, Alex, why don't you just use your support hand to actuate the slide release? And the answer to you is, it's not how I was taught to shoot. And every other gun besides Prodigy, the slide release is in the same, give or take, position as every other gun out there on the market. X5, the Glock 17s, any of the FNs, they're relatively all in the same dang place. So it's kind of like, why do I need to use my support hand when I don't have to do it on any other gun? Moving on from me and my unnatural movements, One of the other pain points for me about Prod is going to be the mainspring, the disconnector, and the ramp that collectively cause hangups, which I've personally experienced here on the comp version. Again, jumping in here really quick, just to say the FDE one, we have not had a single issue with. That is a non-comp variant, but it's surprising to me by this time that what everything that Springfield has brought to the table and now bringing the comp version, whatever they learned from the non-comp, either they took it over to the comp and either it wasn't fine-tuned or whatever it might be, but it just doesn't work. And it puts me in a really awkward position as a buyer where now I either need to send it back to Springfield, which it's not the end of the world, but it's a little slightly annoying. Or I got to go out and have, buy more parts for it, or I got to go and have it sent in to, a local gunsmith, or maybe just something as simple as polishing. And it's just, again, at that price range, I just don't think that's something that I should have to do. So I want to talk about affordability really quick. And I think it really goes hand in hand with the Prodigy. And the big question I think around it is if you're really getting enough for your money. I just personally don't think so. And this really isn't a Springfield problem. Pop had talked about the other day about Hux and their line of suppressors, and he had said something that really resonated with me. And he had talked about that a lot of people are operating with a Yankee Hill budget, and he's not entirely wrong. Where you go out and you spend $1,200 or $2,000 on a 1911, and it doesn't seem like you're getting a lot. Where comparatively, FN gives you a lot, where they give you more mags, they give you optic plates, and it really is a complete gun. And it sort of makes you ready to make the next jump into saying, man, I want a red dot. And I'd probably go as far to say as 80 or 90% of people that buy Prodigies shoot them and get red dots. And to me, it's very frustrating that you get an optics plate that, yes, while designed for the Hex Dragonfly, why it can't just be cut for Trijicon or other things. Same thing on the Prodigy slide. Why it just can't have extra holes in it to where we can just have it ready to go and one optics plate kind of does it all. I really wouldn't hate that. But unfortunately, they don't offer that, and it's slightly annoying to where now, between the extended slide release and a couple other things, I really have to go and spend between, I think it's about $200, $300, or about $250, give or take. And I don't like that. I think out of the buy, they should take care of you right then and there and down the line as well. One of the other things I'd say the Prodigy is now suffering from is it's in a really crowded market. Especially when you look back down in 2022 when it was released, it really just was kind of the only kid on the block. Yeah, it had some competitors, but not like it does now, which is the Mac 9 that just released, the TriStar, Bull Armory, STI in the early days, which is now Staccato, and then the eventual Saber 11 from Palmetto State Armory, whatever it drops. I think when buying any 2011, whether it be our Prodigy or any other brand, I've kind of come to the same conclusion. Whatever you plan on spending, I think you need to add a couple $100s to it, because unless it's tried and true, I think they all need a little work to get them to that level where they become, the carry gun, the hiking gun, whatever it might be. This isn't necessarily a knock on the Prodigy, especially on the FDE side with the non-comp version, and it's been a champ. It hasn't had any issues, but on the flip side, the comp version has had all the issues, and I think if I were to do it again, I would probably go with the non-comp. I also think that there are some things that Springfield can add, like the plates and maybe some more mags, to really ensure that this one stays at the top and doesn't necessarily get lost in the crowd. As the month goes along, we'll have some updates to the comp Prodigy and if we put any parts into it or what we really are going to do to combat the hangups. And as we reach different round counts, we'll continue to have a supply on. I think we're going to do something a little cliche, but it's going to be a 1 out of 10 scale. 1 being spend your money elsewhere, or 10 being I'd buy it in seconds. This is going to be kind of like Top Gear. I think the Prodigy visually passes at 8.5, especially when it gets paired with a light and an optic mount on it. I think they look really, really clean. The FDE one really surprised me. It's probably one of my aesthetically more pleasing guns that I have seen. Reliability. This is sort of where the big story for me is. The comp, unfortunately, scores very low, and I think I'm being very generous at 5.5 on the scale. And I'm sure we'll update it as we get more parts into it, or if we send it back to Springfield, or whatever it may be. And we'll probably hopefully get a better, kind of asterisk score of now it's 10 out of 10. The non-comp score is 10 out of 10 because we had no issues with it at all. So kind of wrapping up my thoughts here, guys, about the Springfield. I think it's a really great gun. I like them. I think if I were to buy one, it would be the non-comp. I think there's some issues with it, but I think especially on the comp version, I think you have to put some parts in it and invest some money into the gun, which doesn't necessarily make it that bad, but I think there's some things that Springfield can really do to alleviate some of the pains that I have, at least, with that gun. But again, we'll see where the market goes, and if there's enough outcry, maybe it'll change, maybe it won't. Guys, that's it for me. I'm Alex with Quietly Armed. And remember, whether you're buying a 2011, a Glock, or whatever it might be that you're buying, do your homework, make your money count, because I can't tell you enough how much that matters. Again, guys, please like, subscribe, and hopefully you enjoy the content.